there, everyone. Welcome to the Counter Revolution podcast. My name is John Rushemeza. And again, thank you for stopping by for this installment of the Counter Revolution podcast. Today, I'm excited to have back on the show my sister, Rhonda Thomas. Rhonda Thomas is a founder and president of Truth in Education. It is a Christian 501c3 nonprofit based in Atlanta, Georgia. She is a passionate advocate for parental rights and a national speaker who exposes harmful anti Christian trends, curricula, and policies in public, private, and Christian schools. Through Truth in Education, Rwanda equips parents and churches to reclaim their God given role in educating their children, promotes homeschooling and Christian schooling options, and fights against ideologies that undermine biblical value. She has been featured in major media outlets, including Epoch Times, CBS News, the Associated Press, and speaks widely on issues such as social and emotional learning, data and privacy in schools, mindfulness programs, and the moral breakdown in the education system. Rhonda Thomas is a warrior for sure. She is definitely part of the counter revolution. She has been doing it for years, and I am so glad to have this discussion with her that has to do with some of the reports that they have on their website under the title God Mind. If you want to know what this is all about, please join me in welcoming Rhonda Thomas to the show once again. All right, ladies and gentlemen, here once again is Miss Rhonda Thomas to the program. Rhonda Thomas, welcome once again to the Counter Revolution podcast.
Thank you for having me, John.
Welcome. Well, Rhonda, today we have a very, I think we say this all the time, but I believe this is a very, very important discussion we're about to have because we're talking about something. So, just to frame this conversation, we're talking about something that I personally, and I think I can speak for my generation, millennials, we don't really think about this a lot. We don't pay enough attention on this kind of stuff.
Mm.
So you know, there's a lot of there's a lot of things that's going on in the system, in the schools, and just in the world in general. Um, but of course, we talk about education. You guys are there to speak truth in education. So before we get started, can you talk a little bit about you and Truth in Education and what all you guys do?
I would love to. So, Truth in Education is a Christian ministry. We are really all about standing up for parental rights. We work on legislation. We file amicus briefs. We filed two this past year on Supreme Court cases that actually was exciting to see the outcome was in favor of the plaintiffs. And we also work with churches to inspire them, pray with them about opening their doors to start a Christian school or opening their doors for homeschoolers or hybrid schools because we know that's so important right now. We also present all over the country. So we speak nationwide on all the topics that and the harmful things that are happening within our schools. And we do a lot of research and a lot of writing. And we just really care about families, and we're here to stand with them and walk with them on this journey because it is a difficult journey at this time with what's happening within our school systems.
Yeah, yeah. There's so much happening, and every time I talk about you and Truth in Education, I always tell people that you guys are a resource to the church, really.
Mhm.
But you're a resource to anyone really that wants truth.
Yes.
Anyone that wants to know what's happening and how to go about it. You guys have very useful information, or you know how to find it, how to find the information. So I'm always thankful for that.
Well,
Um,
and you know
yeah,
what, John? We've just added something too. We have several people who are mentoring families that want to start homeschooling. So there's no charge. They homeschool their children. They're anxious to be a part of that, and
yeah.
so anyone that is interested in homeschooling can reach out to us too, and they will take the time needed to mentor them and answer their questions. So we're very excited about that.
Oh, that's encouraging to hear.
Yes.
Yeah, that's great. Um, okay, so as I said, we have a very, I think, important discussion here. You guys have some reports, some white papers on your website, which I highly encourage those that will hear this to go and check it out. I will link everything in the descriptions below. Um, but you guys titled them "Gold Mind,"
We
which
did.
I imagine it's a play on words on the word "gold mine."
Yes.
Um, um, and these are white papers that you guys put. Um, can you talk a little bit about that? There's one that's, I think, is titled "A Mindfulness in." Oh, I don't have them. I have them.
Yes, one is titled, Silent Surveillance:
Yes, yes,
Who's
yes.
Watching Your Child? And the other one is called It's on Mindfulness, the same thing. I didn't
Data.
have those
It's
open, but I
data data mining mindfulness. It's called.
Yes, yes, yes.
So can you give us a bit of a synopsis on these two reports that you guys put? Just so people can know what we're about to delve into, which we're not gonna obviously be able to cover everything that can be said about this, which is
Uh-huh.
why we encourage people to go and see the reports on the website.
Yes, I would love to, John. Our team came together, and this was a subject that we just began to research and realize that this was huge. And we named it Gold Mind. As you said, it's a play on words, but data is gold. And
Yeah.
so that is where we came up with the title of this and the logo that goes with it, because our children's data is being collected. So we did this because parents are largely unaware of how deeply their children are being tracked and surveilled.
Yeah.
So these schools have adopted digital platforms, wellness surveys, mindfulness programs that we'll talk about, and behavioral monitoring tools. And their inner thoughts, emotions, and personal information are all being collected, analyzed, shared, and stored. And this should concern all of us. It concerned us enough to spend the time to do this research. So, this gold mine campaign was actually developed to document what's happening. We wanted to connect the dots between these programs that are out there in the schools and the data that's being collected so we could give parents the information they needed to make informed decisions and hopefully protect their children.
Mm, yeah. Certainly. So can you then, okay, so let's get into it. What exactly are these mindfulness programs and things like that you guys listed, like Inner Explorer, Mind App, Mind Lift? What are these things doing exactly? Like, I know you just said that they're collecting certain data, but what do they do with this data?
Well, let's talk about the apps a little bit. We're told that these mindfulness programs are coming into the classroom and they're to target the students that have mental health issues.
Hmm.
They're installed on their children's computer in the form of apps, but many of these programs come in through partnerships with major nonprofits. And some of those organizations include, you just mentioned one, Mind Up. Actually, that's
Okay.
from the Goldie Hawn Foundation, and CASTLE, which I know you're familiar with, the
Yes.
Collaborative for Social and Emotional Learning, SEL, which we know is also in our schools. Inner Explorer It consists of daily mindfulness programs that provide minute meditations for children as part of their classroom time. This is really interwoven throughout the day. Inner Explorer, it's daily mindfulness, which integrates again right into the classroom, and that is used in over 120 school districts in all 50 states. It impacts over 2 million students and it delivers over 2 billion mindful minutes. Just think about this is big education, right? Like big
Mm,
pharma when you
yeah.
start looking at this data. So, Mind Up provides a curriculum that focuses on neuroscience, positive psychology, mindful and awareness, and SEL. So, mindfulness, believe it or not, is partnered with Scholastic. And it offers not only are they offering in the classroom, this is also offered to the families for training. And let's talk about one more, and that's MindLift. It's the most advanced. It includes cognitive behavioral theory, self affirmation theory, and AI technology. It provides personalized, this should really cause people to pause. It provides personalized mental health interventions. It as AI adapts to the student's needs and provides inclusive support. Where's the
Mm,
parent in this situation? Don't we normally go to our parent? This is taking you straight to an AI bot that is going to work with you on your mental health therapy. And these programs are sold again as the growing mental health crisis that children are facing today as the to be used to really solve those issues. And we know it isn't. It's making it worse.
wow. you know, you said a bunch of things, but one thing that uh hasn't ceased to amaze me is how Cassell is always somewhere around the corner.
They are there. They're an intricate part of it, aren't they?
Yeah.
It's everywhere.
Wow.
Yes, yes, it is.
So, um, as I said at the beginning here, as a millennial, I feel like we I don't want to say the dumbest generation, but we're definitely um not as attuned. So we're apathetic when it comes to technology and data and things like that. So you know, so parents would hear data is being collected. That there's no data that's being collected, right? But you
Mhm.
guys are saying that um a lot of data is actually because I was listening to some other talks that you give and other people from your organization, and you guys says by law they're not really supposed to, but they found a back door to get this information. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes, we can. And I want to touch on one thing you said about parents.
Uh-huh.
Parents now are used to giving up their own information. Think about that. Their own social media. And so they're constantly giving up their data. So,
Yeah.
in some ways, they're not seeing this as the seriousness that it is because they themselves are used to giving away their information. They
Yeah.
don't realize how deep this is and what it's being used for. But when you talk about privacy and not collecting data, Inner Explorer, their actual privacy policy says that they do not collect or process information on our students. Yet, in that same policy, it states that they permit educational personnel, including teachers and administrators, to register and input class related information directly into their product. And they do that
Mm,
through learning management systems, single sign on systems, rostering tools. There's one called Clever that is used. And these systems allow automatic account creation, They synchronize the data and the student profile linkage. So even if the mindfulness app claims it does not collect student data directly, it seems to receive it through sync data through school systems. So it is being shared, and it's being shared with third parties. Um, these systems share data with vendors like Amazon Web Servers, Google
Yeah.
Cloud. So that means student data may exist in multiple locations and multiple vendor systems. So it is not accurate when they say this data is not shared. And that really does raise security and governance concerns when it comes to the data. I will tell you that I attended a Brain Initiative webinar last year, and they said the government is the worst about protecting data. So, and we know overall data cannot be collected, but then you have the mental health data collection. It's not just their personal information or the behavior. Uh, this is especially sensitive information because this data is collected through survey responses, emotional indicators, behavioral data, AI interpreted signals. That's a lot of this is predictive, especially the AI. So
Yeah.
this is very serious, we believe. And the Mind Lift example, I mean, they use audio tone analysis, the child's voice, facial recognition, sentiment analysis. This crosses into health related territory. So it's really a major ethical discussion point, really. So, but the sad part is FERPA that we've all thought was there to protect our private information because that's what it was originally written for. It's developed broad exceptions that allow schools to share student data without direct parental consent. All of this,
Hmm.
again, comes back to the removal of parental consent. So, for example, schools can disclose student data to outside vendors and contractors if they claim the
Yeah.
information is being used for legitimate educational purposes. That means companies providing digital tools, testing platforms, or learning software can receive access to your child's information without you ever knowing it. Um, there's another major weakness within FERPA, and schools are allowed to act as the parent's agent when it comes to approving digital education tools. So, under federal law, schools can consent on behalf of parents to allow companies to collect their child's personal data if the school believes the service benefits instruction. So, in practice, this really just leaves parents unaware of what information is being collected, how it's being used, or whether it's stored long term in company systems. And so, FERPA is not what it was meant to be or how it originally started. In fact, it struggles to keep up with all the complex technology that's going on right now. It needs to be updated. So we've got a real issue. Our student data can pass through third and even fourth party providers that parents never see listed in their school agreements. So, and this, most of the districts don't have the time to fully monitor that data sharing. So there's a big gap with oversight and leaving your children's personal information really more vulnerable than parents would ever dream.
So what's for you said FOPA? What's that?
FERPA.
For
Yes, FERPA was created, really written. It's to protect private information from for our students. It's the Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act.
okay.
Yes, and I should have mentioned that instead of so used to acronyms, aren't we?
Yeah, I should have looked it up too. I've heard you refer to that
Yeah.
before in other interviews, and I keep thinking, what is it? And I keep forgetting to look it up. But no, that's really good information. Basically, essentially, they're stealing data, mining data without really parents or parents maybe are do you is it possible or is it reasonable to say parents are consenting without knowing what they're consenting to?
Yes. It is fair to say. In fact, at the beginning of the year, parents sign a consent form. It's usually done online,
Mhm.
and um, they really need to make sure they understand what's on that consent form. And not only that, that is a blank um, consent form,
Yeah.
meaning if your child has a health issue, I mean, you're giving them complete control over whatever needs that child has. It's very important that you know what's in that consent form and that you make sure you even go in and mark it up if you have to, or just don't sign it. But what we recommend is you request a paper form of that consent document. Instead of signing it online, I would recommend that every parent request it in paper form so they can really sit down and read it and go through it. And sometimes they don't want to do that, but it's very important, I think, that parents ask for that um, form in paper form, so that they can actually truly review it.
Okay. Um, and so I also heard one of my questions came about because I heard somewhere that these companies say, okay, some information might get away from us, but it's private and anonymous. The these these other vendors are not going to know which kid this information is from. Like, is it true that this it's all anonymous or?
Well, not fully private. Not fully private does not mean not collected, and anonymous does not mean impossible to re identify. And we
Mhm.
can look at that through an app called Gaggle. Gaggle's student privacy notice says that it may collect student, guardian names, contact information, student
Mhm.
ID, school district data. It just goes on. Even approximate student location through the Gaggle browser extension for incident alerts. So the bigger issue is that these systems are designed to create alerts tied to a student. That means that the information cannot be truly anonymous at the point of intervention. If a child is flagged for self harm, violence, bullying, sexual content, drugs, or anything else concerning language, the school must know about it. And the child is triggered for alerts. So if you look at that, how can this information be anonymous? And
Yeah.
there's also a real breach risk. Associated Press reported in 25 that thousands of sensitive student records were exposed in connection with AI powered school surveillance records. So we're seeing it documented even in media that this information is not anonymous. So no parent should
Mm.
assume this data is anonymous or fully private. It may be protected by policy language, but it's still collected, it's still reviewed, it's still stored, shared with school officials, and sometimes exposed.
Um, and in the silent surveillance paper, you
Mhm.
guys write that these programs are running in the background
Mhm.
with basically it says here these programs are installed on student devices and school logins, running in the background to covertly scan everything a student does, using a search algorithm program to alert these designated authorities when certain keywords and phrases are used by students. So they're spying basically on the student. Um, and yeah, that can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes. I think it's important for parents to know that camera on your child's computer is monitoring their emotions. Uh, the mouse is monitoring their anxiety, and everything that keystroke that they put in is being recorded. Every thought they have, everything is being recorded, and it's all being used toward guiding them in a certain direction, but also in alerting the teachers, the staff, the parents, the law enforcement, even. They can use this gaggle. Think about this gaggle. Actually, if you log into your home computer with your school information, it tracks your emails, it tracks your chats. So, this is all
Right.
running in the back and it's all collecting data. There really is nothing that your child does that is not being um, surveilled or tracked.
And here's another thing that was going through my mind is the government would be crazy. The government and all these kind of elites, power hungry elites that wants to play God, uh, would be crazy not to take advantage of this kind of stuff. So someone can sit here and say, "Oh, you guys," I'll be like, "Yeah, you can keep playing if you want to," because to me, I can see that even if someone would say, "Well, they're not doing that right now,"
Right.
fact is they are going to do it because they'll be crazy not to take advantage of this. Like
Mhm.
they already have the kids sitting there, the majority of their childhood. Why
Yes.
not? They're already kind of uh, you know, positioned as lab rats, if you will, for lack of a better word. So why not take full advantage of it with the new technologies? I think
Mhm.
it's naive to think to trust these people. Um.
Well, and
Okay.
yes, and
Go ahead.
John, going back a little bit to what you said, this surveillance is actually harming our children in several ways. It changes the
Mhm.
relationship between the student and the school, and
Right.
they learn their drafts, their chats, their searches, their private thoughts are all being watched. This can create fear in a child and self censorship and definitely distrust. Um, the AP reported cases where students were called to the office and even arrested after an AI surveillance alert. And these are predictive. How can they tell if a child is says or looks suspicious at the moment? I mean, children are always different every moment, right? They cannot
Yeah.
do this. So anyway, AI can actually alert law enforcement. And then the teachers and students have to report harm. So the Center for Democracy and Technology um, found that the monitoring software can lead to disciplinary action and affect students' trust and expression. So the safety claims are not as proven as companies imply. The Brennan Center found little evidence that social media monitoring keeps students safe. And no comprehensive independent studies have proven these tools increase student safety. In fact, what we're finding is the opposite. So, yeah, it's really, I think the strongest public wording for this is these programs are sold as safety tools, but they train children to live under constant observation. They can turn normal children's expressions into a reportable event. They can create permanent behavioral records. They can involve law enforcement, and they can teach children that privacy must be surrendered in exchange for safety. We hear that a lot, don't we? Whatever you need to do to
Yeah.
keep us safe, we're giving up our freedom, and we're already giving up our freedom of our children through the data surveillance and tracking.
Yeah, and that's very interesting that you said that because they did the same thing during COVID. They told
Mhm.
us that we just had to trust them; they were going to protect us. Um,
Yes.
and these so I can imagine proponents would say, hey, we need to be able to predict if a child is gonna self-harm or harm other people. We need to be able to know if this child maybe is being abused in some way. What do you have to say about that? Because as I think about it, um I'm pretty sure they have a nice script there as to why they convince teachers and administrators to install these machines in the schoolhouse?
Well, what they do is, again, kind of what we started with, John. It's presented and sold as a way to make a difference with mental health issues, but also to keep students safe. That's their most common response. So companies, they justify this by the surveillance by coming up with the things we're dealing with in the schools, right? School violence,
Right.
bullying, self-harm, suicide, the threat detection. So they they have all these reasons behind why it's so important to track and surveil our children. And sometimes they'll share success stories, examples where a student was flagged for intervention and how it turned out. So these companies and the school districts are customers to these companies. We have to remember this is about money. And so they'll always argue that surveillance is necessary, citing success stories that tug at administrators' heartstrings and presenting one off success stories as the rule instead of the exception. So basically, it means that when parents object, the companies shift the conversation from privacy to fear and safety, making parents feel like their opposing surveillance could put children at risk when in fact that isn't the case. Um, and then, of course, probably going back to what we talked about, they always say, oh, it's protected, the data's protected, and it's secure. But um, we know that's not necessarily the case.
And uh the I think somewhere you guys say that these machines are able to detect behavior and monitor social media even after hour, like when they are home.
Yes, if they actually sign into, especially Gaggle is a one to point out, if they sign into their home computer with their student ID login,
Hmm.
then they can still track them even there. So that is linked to them even through their home computer. So, and companies like Gaggle, um, the student information's handled through companies like Gaggle. They design their privacy notices to explicitly warn the possibility of breaches, including they'll make statements like neither we nor other hosted service providers can guarantee the service or security of all the personally identifiable information. So they admit themselves that all this data cannot be guaranteed to be protected. So they don't promise any. So in practice, they promise safeguards, but legally acknowledge that there's no system completely secure. So they're taking a risk every day with our children's data. Mhm.
Um, I forgot to ask you this at the
But it,
beginning. Data mining mindfulness. I know mindfulness is a pretty spiritual, has a
mhm.
spiritual component to it. Can you talk a little bit about that? Like the idea of mindfulness and also what that has to do with this technology.
So mindfulness is also used as a mental health therapy, right? So again, they're collecting that data. They're collecting the inner emotions of our children. No one
Mm,
should be collecting that type of data. Think about it, their feelings, their fear, their anxiety, everything that makes them who they are inside, they're collecting
right.
all this data on our children. And they're building, really, if you look at all this that's happening, John, look at all the data they're collecting. This seems very similar to China, doesn't it, with the social credit
Yep.
score? So I believe this is going into their digital wallet, and this is, we believe, creating a social credit score, not only our children, but their parents, because many of these surveys and the things that are asked are regarding parents. So This isn't just about the children. And this, of course, we know is about destroying the family. And I think one of the things you had brought up was how do you respond to this, even if you're a Christian parent? Um, it makes us, what kind of culture are we training our children to accept? Because
Yeah.
children raised under this constant monitoring begins to accept surveillance as normal, and we don't want that. This shapes how they see authority, privacy, freedom, responsibility. So, me as a Christian parent, I think we should all be asking: Are we raising our children who understand moral responsibility, or children who behave only because they're being watched? So we're not really, this is not about the heart issues. It's really about fear. This is fear based. So I think that's a very biblical, deep biblical question that as parents we need to be asking ourselves. In Galatians 5:3, it says you were called to be free. Freedom with responsibility is a biblical model, not perpetual monitoring of our children.
Yeah. Um, so there's something I was looking for it that has to do with mindful meditation in which um through these softwares they also have this aspect of I guess prayer and what's that all about?
Well, I think what I recall is that we're just suggesting to Christian parents, that they really need to understand this as a worldview. It's a new age um, based religion, and it's
Right.
important that they understand what's happening and that their children are, you know, doing a type of who are they praying to, right? That's kind of what
Yeah.
you're asking about. Um, and that's very important that we as Christians understand that this is new age and this is not something that it is in total conflict with our faith. And I'm looking for what you're talking about too, John, because I think what
Yeah,
that was.
it's in the last. It's towards the end. Under
Okay.
what parents must do. It says,
Yes.
as you just
Yes.
said, Christian parents in particular should take
Yeah.
a pause to question why mindfulness meditation, a Hindu form of prayer, is being
Yes.
taught
Yes.
to their children and practiced daily during class time as part of the school curriculum. Um,
Yes.
and so that stood out to me, of course, because I'm a Christian parent, but
Yes.
because that's what we're here to kind of fight against. In addition, at the beginning here, we spoke about Cassell and how Cassell always fight is always there, and of course, you have spoken kind of rather courageously about ACL and a demonic influence that it is. And so that's what I wanted to kind of tie in here is that component that is something else that parents
Yeah.
should be aware of with this kind of stuff.
So we are told that when mindfulness, because it does have a New Age Hindu Buddhist history, and we're
Hmm.
told that when it hits the classroom door, that it's secular. But we all know
Yeah.
that you cannot remove the root of something. And we actually have a document of someone stating that that is not the case. You cannot remove that, just like SEL, social emotional learning. You cannot remove the root of where that came from and who created that and who their
Right.
mentors were. Alice Bailey, the Fetzer Institute, Luciferian Publishing Company, New Age. So you can't remove that. So we have to stop and think, why is this in our school? As a Christian, we have to start thinking about these things. We're not in the room with our children. We're not seeing what they're doing. We're not watching them do these breathing exercises. They're
Mm.
conditioning our children. There is a private school in Atlanta that actually brought in the Dalai Lama. So we have to wonder, what is the end goal of this? I believe the end goal of all of this is to remove God from society, and especially to remove it from our schools and from our children, because we know this is spiritual warfare, and that is the
Right.
end goal. So through social emotional learning, mindfulness, and the other applications they're using within our schools, uh, we believe there's a desire to remove our children's free will, their conscience, God. And how do you do that? You bring in something and slowly indoctrinate them into another belief system or no belief system at all. So that's where we believe it's going. And that's why we really wanted to dig deep into this, because as a Christian, we really want to wake up Christian parents to see this they're not learning, right? They're not
Yeah.
focusing on academics. They're focusing on behavior. They're focusing on their beliefs, their attitudes, their behaviors. They're transforming them. And that transformation is moving them away from family into a worldview we don't believe in and into a global citizen. So it's very, very important that parents understand this is much more serious, the data collection that's happening, than just sharing your information on social media or anything like that. This is tracking your child, surveilling your child, and it's going to be with them forever. It's going to
Yeah.
affect their decisions in the future. It's going to affect job opportunities. This is going to follow them. And so that is, I think, the biggest warning of all of this is very, it should cause everyone to pause, right? This should cause everyone to stop and say, is this where I want my child to be? Are they being taught what I want them to be taught? Are they being turned away from our belief system? There's some big questions here that parents need to ask. And so we hope what we've done by pulling this information together, as well as the others research we do, is to try to open the eyes of parents. If our child
Yeah.
can't read and write, we can teach them how to do that, right? But they are after our child's soul, and that is very serious.
Yeah. I mean, for me, when I hear this kind of stuff, I just can't help but think about um, surveillance, digital prison, enslavement of some sort in the future. And ultimately, I just would my goal. I don't want to save the government school system. I don't think, as you know, the government should be in the business of education at all. But we have the system, and we have to bring awareness to our fellow brothers and sisters in Christ, as well as fellow just citizens who
So,
yeah, who's to um, see the usefulness of the system. But in the end, in the long run, these kids are being used as guinea pigs for something. They're being used as guinea pigs for something they can't do, for example, for me and you, because we're adults. We've already kind of formulated our ways. It's not that easy to change us, but it's very easy to mold a child. And so if these AIs are learning them from childhood, when they come and meet with them later on in the future, who knows what's who knows? Right? No, nobody really knows what they will attempt to do with this information, which is why, um, to me, I know they're gonna get our information some way, uh, but I would like to protect the kids for as long as possible.
I agree. And maybe another day we can talk about the portrait of a graduate, which is being created on every one of our children. And that portrait includes their behavior, their mental health, everything about them. It's the whole child. And that portrait is going to follow them. And so maybe I can come back sometime and we can get into that. So this
Oh
data
yeah.
is used for many things. I'm going to say there is something called school to work. And now what we're doing,
Hmm.
we're collecting so much data. But we passed Georgia passed a bill that we basically are creating children for human capital, like you said. They don't really care if they can read, write, and do math. I just moderated a state school superintendent forum. Um, Elections are happening. And
Hmm.
I asked the question, are we focusing too much on soft skills instead of academics? Oh no, because all the businesses want soft skills. Well, what are soft skills? They're castle, right? Self awareness,
Right, right.
all of this. So it has nothing to do with academics because what they're doing is they're going to guide these children into the workforce, and it's based on their portrait of the graduate. Um, and the needs of the business is in your community. Those are the jobs they're gearing them toward. I would say these children are not always going to have an opportunity to even pick their jobs over time. What happens to individualism? What happens to God's gifts and talents that He gives our children? So there's a huge plan out there, and all this data is being used for many purposes, and that's one of them. Also, data's for sale, right?
Right.
So think about this. Um, if you want to get a little bit into school choice, which I'm not a proponent of, I know there are lots
Hmm.
of great people out there that are. This is just my view. My view is
Yep.
that money is to be made off of our students. They're going to be a product because the goal in game is to have charter schools. Charter schools have their own boards. They have their own management organizations. They're for profit, most of them. And so now we're looking at that. People, these foundations, large foundations, many of whom we know the names, are pouring money down into these policy groups who are then creating legislation, grassroots to get these school choice bills passed. Well, why are they doing that? Because they're going to make money. Once this all passes and comes into play, there's money to be made off of our students' data, off of all the technology that's in the schools, off of the health clinics, off of all the pharmaceuticals that will be prescribed. It is a business. In fact, education
Yep.
is a big business. And there's so much coming down the road that we don't always talk about. We're seeing it come to play, but a lot of parents aren't aware of why these things are happening. Just like you said, why is all this data being collected? Well, there's multi purposes for it, but in the end, it's not for the good of our children. Um, yes.
Okay. Um, I have a video that I would like
Uh-huh.
to play. The
Okay.
moment I saw it, I was like, I have to see what Miss Rhonda thinks about this.
Okay. Show me the video.
Indeed, our world is transforming, and through the use of AI, we can now access centuries worth of humanity's knowledge base. The future of AI is personified. It will be formed in the shape of humans. Very soon, artificial intelligence will move from our mobile phones to humanoids that deliver utility. Since our environment is designed for people, humanoid systems are uniquely suited to navigate and operate within our world. They fit well. Imagine a humanoid educator named Plato. access to the classical studies is now instantaneous. Literature, science, art, philosophy, mathematics, and history. Humanity's entire corpus of information is available in the comfort of your home. Play-Doh will provide a personalized experience, adaptive to the needs of each student. Play-Doh is always patient and always available. Predictably, our children will develop deep critical thinking and independent reasoning abilities. The AI-powered Play-Doh will boost analytics skills and problem solving and adapt in real time to a student's pace, prior knowledge, and even emotional state. The byproduct, a more well-rounded lifestyle for our children, freeing up time for being with friends, playing sports, and developing interests beyond school. A more complete person.
All right, Miss Rhonda, what's wrong with that?
Well, where should we start? I almost have no words, right? It's heartbreaking, really, because what she's saying is that our children are, all these jobs that we're preparing our children for will be gone,
uh,
right?
yeah.
There's not going to be any jobs for our children at some point. And I think as much as I am for technical schools, and I think they're important,
Hmm.
I think, again, they're gearing everyone that way, whether they want to or not. In fact, in Germany, I think it is, I read that this gentleman followed several students when they brought in this, changed their system to managed education, which is what we're doing. Uh,
Hmm.
and they had to choose at a very early age what their career was going to be. And as they got a little older, they were very disappointed that they did that because they really weren't at an age or a critical thinking area to really understand what that meant down the road. But there's a lot of concerns because what they're doing is they're creating state shaped citizens, right?
Right.
Humanoid models. So it's placing the authority for shaping a child's character, their beliefs, everything in the hands of the state rather than the family. It's almost hard to believe, but we see it and it is believable because we're hearing it. And we're
Mhm.
hearing it from our current administration. And not only them, but this point of view conflicts, of course, with our Christian point of view. And many people, even if you're not Christian, this conflicts. This is real, it's happening, and how do we prepare for it? I would say that
Mm.
we need to be our armor needs to be very strong because we're
Yeah.
not going to outpace AI. Uh, we can put guardrails around it. We've supported a bill in Congress, the App Accountability Act. We've done different things, but in reality, how do you put guardrails against something like that, around something like this? I don't know. And if you think about the limited number of people like Google and all of these, that there's very few people, but they have total control of AI, OpenAI, Zuckerberg. I mean, how do you control that? So I don't know.
Yeah. When I saw that video, they immediately, now I've always known this, but that just made it much more clear that what we're talking about here, like school choice, like what she was saying about the machine basically educating the kids, and the machine is called Play-Doh, and the machine has all the
Right.
information, as if that can replace the parent. But
Yes.
that's what she's saying. She's saying,
Mhm.
leave it up to the machine. The machine will thoroughly educate your child. You're free to go and do whatever. Before you know it, the machine will be trusted to house sit and kind of take care of your children as you're
Yes.
away. Like this is insane. And of course she's the wife of the Republican president saying
Mhm.
this. and which is to say, this is a bipartisan thing. It's not where
Right.
sometimes conservatives tend to be like, okay, we can just fix it politically. Well, this is going to be coming from both, and the school choice right now is actually a lot more famous on the right than it is on the left, which again highlights the point that, you know, a lot of people have been trying to make over the years, is that it's not a partisan thing because both sides are guilty. We just have to take the kids out. That's, to me, I hear the first lady say that, I'm like, oh, people need to take their kids out now. We're not going to wait for Plato to come and educate the kids. The system is already failed. Plato is not going to fix it. But anyway,
Yes. Plato is not going to fix it. And I love when Alex
yeah,
Newman says the system is doing what it was designed to do, right? We see in
exactly.
certain districts, like in Texas, I work with someone there, and they're already talking about serving dinner to children. I mean, we are giving our children to the government. And why
Yeah,
would they think they don't own our children when they're paying for their food, they're educating them, they're providing mental health therapy. They have health clinics. Why would we think we own our children? We're not taking any
yeah,
responsibility for them. We're turning it all over to the system, to the government. And you know what? I don't think we as parents sometimes think about that. We think of it as convenience. So
mm,
I want people to renew their minds and start thinking about things biblically and about their responsibility. And I know that it is convenient because we have so many parents who both work, and so all this stuff looks so good, but guess what? I think that's why the government does it. It looks so good, and they use such wonderful terminology that we don't realize that we're being deceived. And so I
yeah.
just pray for discernment for all of us, in all these situations. We have a lot going on right now in our world, and there's certainly a lot going on in our schools. So that's
Um, Miss Rhonda, before we go,
mhm,
a few things. Um, so for one, you you have been talking about this data mining um initiatives that are, you know, currently going.
right.
Um, we've established already that the government, it's naive to assume that the government or other third parties, elite
Right.
entities, are not going to use this to further control or enslave or who knows what else they'll be able to do. Um, how can parents get out of this? Can parent what can parents do? The ones that choose to send their kids to government school.
Well, they need to be informed. And if they want to have any questions or anything that we can help them with, they're welcome to reach out to us at info@truthandeducation.org. If they're thinking of homeschooling, they're welcome to reach out to us at the same email, info@truthandeducation.org. Um, Also, there's another site called Public School Exit that has lots of resources. But if you also want personal mentoring on an ongoing basis, they are welcome to reach out to us. The other thing is they need to ask for their children's data. Uh, it is not going to come easy because we believe that once that data leaves, I don't even know that the school knows where it goes. But
Yeah.
you should know what data is being collected on your children. You can actually ask for a list of all the apps that are being used on their Chromebooks. We actually had a parent that asked for that list at the beginning of the year and opted out of some of them. So we have
Mhm.
opt out forms on our website because there's many things you can opt out of. You can opt out of comprehensive sex ed. You can opt out of a lot of different things. So we encourage you to go there and download those opt out forms. And we also recommend that you send them by certified mail to make sure
Mhm.
that if they can't say they never received them, get them signed, ask for them to be part of their permanent record. So there's a lot of things like that. There's a lot of things a parent's never going to see, and especially with the
Right.
younger children, the ones that are in high school right now, they're gonna leave most of them, not all of them. Some of them, there's always children that will do well, right? But emotionally, there's a lot happening in those schools. The children that are starting in the lower grades, they're not gonna know the difference because mom's not gonna know the difference and dad isn't because they don't really know. And I see why they keep it. It's not talked about, but what all is happening in those schools through the um, social psychology that is happening in our schools, the manipulation, the really brainwashing through all these different platforms. So they're not going to know that. There are certain things they can do, and that is to opt their child out of anything they can opt them out of. You really can't opt out of social emotional learning. It is woven through
Right.
every single subject. You can opt out of counselors, and we highly recommend that. Never let your child see a school counselor. If they need something, take them outside of the system. The They also do wellness circles every morning. You can
Yeah.
opt out of that. That is nothing other than them talking about their feelings. They self-report a lot. What child can really, at that age, manage their feelings? So there's a lot going on right there. And think about it, they're also all different ages. Um, an 8-year-old is very different than a 9-year-old. Have you ever seen a counselor, a true psychologist or counselor mix ages and work with different people on different it's just nonsense really. And it's all used
Right.
to begin to control their feelings and to teach tolerance. And so there's a lot of things you can opt out of. There's a lot of things you really will not ever know that's happening. I will ask you this. This is such a tip, but if your child is dealing with anxiety or depression, don't automatically think it's something outside of the school. Uh, you need to find out what's happening inside that school. We have a psychologist on our advisory board, and he has made the comment that they used to see children that cut every 3 or 4 months. It's every week now. There is
Wow.
PTSD on the rise, depression, anxiety, suicide. Don't ever assume that it's something outside the school. It may be, but you need to know what's going on inside that school. Is your child being bullied? Um, just so much stuff. So I just want to throw that out there because I've seen parents really struggling with that. So we've got to take responsibility for our children. We got to pull them out of these schools. But if you can't, if you're can't do it, then you need to make sure that you know as much as you can know about what's going on within the school building.
Yeah, I recently watched or rewatched a video from the FETSA Institute,
Oh yes.
um, and they basically said that SEL um, and all this stuff is in.
Mm.
I think at the time, which was like 2 years ago, maybe three, that SEL is in I think 95% of the schools in the United States. Um, I would bet it's probably in 100% now, and that it's so ingrained in it that you can't opt out.
Yeah.
There's just to opt out, you might as well just take your kid out. That's the only way you can opt out.
Yes.
But as you guys have been telegraphing, um, social emotional learning has opened the door to this now data mining, which is being done by some of this, most of the same um, uh, usual suspects, and who knows now what they do next with this information. Well, we do know, at least we can look forward to Plato, the educator, but humanoid. But who knows what else they have in store. But I think you've been so helpful, Miss Rhonda, as always. And I am so glad for Truth in Education and the work that you guys are doing out there. Is there anything else you'd like to share about this, or about, what you guys do to point people in the right direction?
Well, again, it's just for parents. We want to walk this journey with you. If you need anything, please reach out to us. We really want to inform you. If you have a child that is, well, if mindfulness is in your schools, there are a few schools that is, we're going to recommend you ask if that's the case. Number one, you need to find out what's in your school. This is an overview of what's in most all schools, but you still need to find
Yeah.
out what's in your school. And if mindfulness is in conflict with your Christian belief, we would love for you to reach out to us if you're concerned about that. That's a concern we have, and we would love to talk with you about that. And then you can reach us we're on Twitter. Oh, look how old I went back, didn't I? It's kind of like Kleenex, right? It's always going to be Twitter, but we're
Yeah.
on X. We're on Instagram, Facebook. We are on Substack, and that is where all our research and our articles are. And so
Yeah.
you can reach us there. And then our website is truthineducation.org.
Yep. And I will be sure to link all this in the descriptions of this video. So much information. I mean, again, people in my generation, we tend to be apathetic about all this. It's so much, but I think it's very important, because um it has to do with the future generations, our own children, and their children. And how else do we fight back as Christians? I think we fight back by recognizing that this is first and foremost spiritual warfare, and finding out as much information as we can, and doing something about it, which you guys are doing well at uh, truthineducation.org.
Thank you.
Yeah, so with that, I want to say once again, thank you so much, Miss Rhonda, for coming on to talk to me. And thank you for all this information. It is kind of overwhelming, but you guys have simplified it enough for the people. So
Thank you for having me, John, and thank you for all you do. I encourage people to read your Substack. It's very informative. So thank you again for having me.
thank you.